Where'd you go to school?
Pacific University. Had Portland.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you better have. Probably could have went further in baseball, but I like football more.
What position?
I was tailback, running back, and football, and I played center field.
Are you a lefty?
No.
Do you read Creighton for softball?
Okay, just checking.
I just noticed there was a Vandals pin on the desk.
Who's
Who's the Vandal?
We did, there were some of us that went and did a college visit
Oh, okay,
that came from my desk.
okay.
We support all university, college.
Part Vandal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to go. Good to go. Second that, the angle's weird on that.
Like the SUV. Is that better? Thank you.
Good on?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we're returning from executive session. Next is new business. First one's whether we want to approve the off-campus venue for the prom.
I took care of that.
All right. We did.
That will work, right, Stephanie? I made that motion in the previous.
Yeah.
one. So-
Okay. Next one is amended policy 3525 for immunization requirements. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I didn't really read the amendment policy. Or,
Basically, it was changing the,
is that it?
That's basically the gist of it right there. It's quite dramatically changed.
so Ms. Spafford, do you want to speak to that? Nurse Nancy put that together, right, to update it to the current standard? The
Yes.
vaccination schedule.
She did, yes. I just want to reiterate that folks have every option to opt out.
Yeah.
From vaccinations. So there's very much no pressure from the district to get vaccinations. We just need to sign off saying that.
Is this a state requirement? Is that what changed
Yes.
it?
It was central.
Central District Health.
The state law says that they follow State Board of Health, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Their recommendation. My question was, I looked up the IDAPA rule that it references, and the IDAPA rule reads basically like the previous policy showed. I just didn't understand why it's being updated right now. I was hoping the nurse would be here to ask.
Well, I think that lends us to more discussion, so maybe we should just table that. Kind of a.
Not
big rush on it.
I'm good with that.
I think you have to.
Yep. Okay, we're going to table amended policy 3525. Just put it on a future meeting. Next is amended policy 8205, district wellness policy.
Any questions on this one?
You have some questions?
I have some on this. Yeah. Well, I remember what this was. The question I had on this one was, it looks like we're eliminating all physical education after elementary school, right?
The requirement is eliminated. That doesn't mean that we will necessarily eliminate it from our curriculum.
Okay.
We have a full-time physical education teacher under contract for this year, and the intent is to carry that through.
So is this to put us in compliance with the state?
Yes.
Can I speak to this as well? This is to align it with our graduation requirements as well. And so our graduation requirements aren't requiring PE after middle school and high school. And so we still provide that as part of our electives that they can take, but it aligns with our graduation requirements. This form has not, or this policy has not been updated for multiple years. It is supposed to be per Debbie's requirements has to be looked at and evaluated annually, or she gets tagged on it through the school lunch program. And so it's not part of our policies that we say annual review because the policy itself doesn't say it has to be reviewed annually. But her requirements as far as like the checklist that says that has done these things so that she, her program's working effectively, it doesn't have that. So that is how this got here, and I would expect to see it annually.
That's what they want to know.
Should we
Yeah.
add this to the list of policies that we?
It comes internal annually, and then it has to be updated if there's changes.
It's a good question for Stephanie.
I'm sorry, was
Seems
it?
reasonable to me.
I just saying we should probably add this to the list of policies to review.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can customize that policy however you want. Mhm. Okay, so I'll bring that policy back next month just for an amendment and adding that.
Yeah, but as far as this kind of,
This policy's fine. I just would need your action on the policy that we're changing later. That's our list.
so, and this one does kind of make sense in light of what we changed in our curriculum, so I would move that we amend policy 8205 to reflect what was lined out in the policies given to the board.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to amend policy 8205 to the district wellness policy with the changes that are proposed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is to approve school closures for November 18th, December 17th for power outage, snow, and road conditions.
I'll make a motion that we approve, acknowledge that they were closed, November 18th and December 17th due to snow and power outage and road conditions.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the school closures on November 18th and December 17th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Next is to discuss the athletic teams and how many students are required for a new team. How many students? Brian?
Sure. So we've been looking into fiscally what is responsible with numbers of participants in sports and whether they can be justified if they're really, really small teams. And so something moving forward to look at potentially is creating a policy of like there has to be a minimum number of people in individual sport and then it would differ per team sports to be a functional. And so, for example, let's say football would need a minimum of 11 players to run a high school team. If you don't have 11, you can't really justify running a program. Per person, it would be so expensive per kid, but also you need 8 to play, and you're really cutting the line of that season being cut short. Volleyball, you might need 8 to run a team because 6 play at one time, maybe a couple of reserves. And then looking at individual sports, whatever that number should be, maybe the numbers of 5 or 6 have been tossed around to be able to function as a sport.
And those
And-
you're talking track and field, cross country.
Yes, so track and field would need minimum of 6, cross country would need a minimum of 6,
Sure.
individual sports to function, to be able to afford that sport per athlete. And such as at a small school like this. When I called around, and I know Hannah has too, we looked at IHSA, and the head of IHSA was pretty shocked at some of the numbers we run and provide for our kids. He's like, there's no other schools doing it. If you have 3 kids, they're not running that program because it's just so expensive per kid for small districts like this. So it's just something to potentially create a policy for if we want to.
So in light of what you're saying, is it possible that we would still be able to offer up them to have that sport if it was pay to play? Is it strictly financial or is it more?
It tends, so let's say you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And you have the fees for all the tournaments they have to go to, which
Right.
usually don't get cut, even if you have 100 or 3,
Yeah.
you're paying the fee. The transportation costs to get them there and back, the coaches' salaries, to justify what starts to balloon into a $10,000 budget for 3 kids, is hard to justify. The other option would be to like co-opt and talk to Horseshoe Bend and go, how many do you have that want to do this, and can we combine and do something? There's some sports that offer club opportunities, and so the kids would have to move to the club side of things to play that or participate in that sport.
So we don't have to change the policy or create a policy, there is no policy right now.
Mhm.
And the idea is to have a discussion about, you know, and you just shared that half of our student body, high schoolers, participating in sports, which is wonderful. We just voted to change our wellness program to say it's okay, you don't have PE after elementary. And part of that is like, I'm okay with that because we're way above average on activity, participation. Our kids are doing it. You have to limit it, you know, with a policy that we don't need, you know, if they don't need it. I mean, I've been thinking about this, you know, we kind of just talked about it a little bit. Like with, I don't know, wrestling in particular, it's a small program. But I think about like cheerleading, so I got 3 kids, you know, and those matters to those 3 kids, you know. And
I completely agree.
so-
I just fiscally, it's really, and I can get you
Can
numbers.
we
on each
also,
sport and
can
look
we
at
just limit, instead of creating a policy, can we also just limit it year by year? We're like, okay, do we have to have a policy to be able to justify?
I think you get into the issue of then you're opening
You did it
yourself up to parents being like, wait, you did it last year, why are you doing it this year for my kid? You're opening it up to a lot of can of worms if you don't have something established.
In a policy, if we created it just to give like guidelines,
Mhm.
could there, and this is just coming from like not knowing your side of things,
Sure.
but, could there be a certain threshold that if they're exceeding that number of players, then it's a like school funded program? And if it's below another, it's like scholarship run where they have to, fundraise for their portion, but can still be run through the school. It would just be like scholarship based if they would like to do it.
That could be an option that would be then, yeah, that could be done.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or if we have volunteer coaches,
Right.
stipends are,
Mm-hmm.
well, coaches are not.
So maybe just some like
There's still
a delineation between the two sizes for sports programs.
And we currently do have some volunteers.
Ryan started running the numbers, and I think that helps kind of show the picture of it all when you look at the numbers and what's paid for a small number of athletes. And
No, it makes sense.
And I just look at it, like all of these opportunities where we're spending a lot for a few kids. If we, for every 50,000 we can cut in something like that, that's not benefiting many, we can have another teacher to open a shop class
Right.
that might benefit a lot of kids.
Or
Like there's a lot,
CTE or
Yeah.
whatever,
or however Hennessy's fit, you know?
Right.
Can we figure, instead of creating a policy of like each sport, cheerleading needs this many, or
Yeah.
wrestling needs this many, and doing all that, can we get it to a dollar amount per activity? You know, like, so football costs a different amount than,
I have it. What the district spent on football this year
yeah,
exactly was $14,304 divided by 26 athletes.
yeah, so if we can figure out whatever these numbers end up being,
Mhm.
then it would be a lot easier for us to create a policy based on revenue.
Right.
And maybe it offsets by participate, or parents are more like, or people come and watch football more than and pay, you know, they can offset the $14,000. You know, and then we factor that in. Where our parents are gonna go pay to go watch cross country. I mean, I want to watch, but I'm only gonna go pay.
Yeah, they don't gate, I don't think.
Well,
Uh,
And contribution to
some,
that
yeah.
is just that your gate fees never go towards the sport, they're going for your referee costs. So our gates do not go in any way towards whatever
But
sport is
still,
playing.
You're right, but it still would affect the 14,000 if the referee costs are part of that.
They are. Yeah. They were part of.
So it just helps offset that amount.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it does, I didn't realize you were pulling that from that.
Yeah, so we have referees, coaches' salaries, transportation with Harlow's, transportation on white van, state weekend, food and housing, state Harlow's transportation, painting the field, which was quite expensive every game you have to paint, tape, ice packs, things that we
Yeah.
provide from the school. all that stuff together was what came up. And that's not, no equipment.
Does it show revenue as far as the revenue coming in from from the gates? Did
The
that get
revenue
Put back in?
was about half of our revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so not even covering your.
No,
No,
didn't
it's,
even cover
that's why we don't, we do not use our gates for anything but referees.
So that 14,000 doesn't account for a pretty big number that they fundraise for.
It's pretty massive.
Yeah.
All equipment. We don't pay for any equipment, any helmets, any pads.
They do a lot of fundraising.
There's
Yes.
a
right?
lot around.
Like,
Well,
how
that's
much do
where-
they get for, do you know?
Jason's,
For what?
I don't have the exact,
I believe it's around 20,000.
about 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000 a year, is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
fundraise, which is what they do.
And the district really pays
Helps.
for transportation and the difference on referees and things.
Referees, coaches' salaries are in there.
Coaches.
Yeah.
Which isn't a lot. For
No.
the amount of time they do it, it's
No.
way below minimum
It-
wage.
It's very little. But, and so, and that's a big school. That's the biggest, most expensive. It also has the most participants. So when you divide the number, it's not a massive number because you have 26, 27 athletes dividing that number, it's 550 per athlete. But some of the other sports you get into where.
Yeah, I think we get that to a number and we know what that number
Yeah.
is. So if wrestling costs more than $550 per athlete, the transportation.
It's costing 5,000 per athlete.
Yeah, so then we know that's out of our,
Right.
So we just maybe average it and then look at those numbers and then we create a policy based on numbers instead of per sport.
Yeah, you could do
Sports
that,
are
but
pretty
you usually
subjective.
don't get the numbers till after the season and look at, you could do a guideline of the year
Yeah.
before and base it.
And it can guide your policy. I just
That
don't want to
way,
not have like, as you're trying to decide this, not having a policy is very difficult on your administration and your leadership because she doesn't have anything to
Okay.
enforce. And it's your policy. So you create the policy, then she has something to enforce.
And ultimately, the ask is just that the board make that decision for what's best for our community and our school.
What
Because
is,
I do agree that kids should have the opportunity to do. Like those
Yeah.
3 kids do care about it,
Absolutely.
and
What
if
is
it doesn't
the
cost too much, or
process
if the
for
parents say,
setting up
we're gonna
policy?
make this cost less. Or if the coach says, if Michelle Davis goes, okay.
Yeah, we just
I
start
want to do
drafting.
the program,
Yeah, letter or
I'm gonna
something.
charge half as much or whatever, nothing, so we can make it happen, great.
And that policy could be written that way, that when you hit that threshold, that like, if people want to volunteer and if parents want to pay, but the school can't pay for this.
Right, or go and get more kids.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
go get more kids to do it, and then you change the ratio, the number, and then you can do it.
100%.
It is also something that I encourage you to keep in mind if someone comes and wants to bring a new sport into the fold, which we've had multiple years now, where we bring another sport in and it dilutes out our total number of players, especially if it's in the same season, but also our budget doesn't change. So now each sport has less available to them.
That makes sense.
So I guess the question is, do you think it's worthwhile to spend the time to develop a policy and then we'll start working on it?
I think so.
I think
I think so, I think it should be revenue based.
Yeah.
Or cost
It's
benefit based. So it should be based off of cost per activity.
Well, we can bounce ideas around it or
Yeah.
make sure kind of.
I think it'd be good.
Superintendent Spafford just said that she could get a policy from a different school.
Yeah, we could look at several districts' policies and compare and see what you all feel. That's good.
That'd be great.
And
Yeah.
then we'll have to vote.
Okay.
You guys ready to move on then?
Yes, sir.
Next item is to vote whether we want to accept the resignations of Dr. Kimball and Stacy May. Any discussion there?
Any discussion?
I would like to motion that we accept the resignations of Craig Kimball and Stacy Lee.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to accept the resignations of Dr. Craig Kimball and Stacy May. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Next item is open positions if necessary. Is there any positions that need to be opened?
Technically, no. We have the next line item on the agenda that covers that. So Bundy Stevens, who has been serving as the community schools coordinator, I am recommending that we transition her to K-12 special education teacher. She meets the criteria for a 3-year license at this time. And the application is sitting on my desk, ready to go to the State Department if the board feels that's a good choice. Bundy has served with special needs kids in this district for some time now, and it really is a passion of hers. I feel like it's gonna be a really great fit.
I think she's great.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Okay. Once qualified and if it's your
I have one more question before we skip to
criteria
that
one.
on the open positions. Do we need any more paras? Because Donovan resigned last month or last year, and we haven't opened that unless we did open it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that question. So with the addition of a special education teacher, there is more, there's more leniency in what they can do as far as duties and serving the students versus a paraprofessional.
Okay,
So
so if we title it differently, we get more flexibility?
Yeah.
Okay,
it increases the flexibility.
all right.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the internal transfer of Bundy Stevens to sped director or sped teacher.
I will second.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the internal transfer of Bundy Stevens to sped teacher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Next is whether to transfer Stephanie Korn to community school coordinator.
How do you feel about it, Stephanie?
I think it's a great decision.
Okay.
I
Something
think-
that I think you have a unique skill set, you're incredible, you're at everything, and you say yes to a lot.
Yeah,
Is helping our kids with the pathway to whatever they want to do.
yeah.
And I don't think anybody in our valley knows as much about that as you do, and I appreciate you doing that.
I'm excited. I think that definitely the length of time I've been in the valley, the resources that I have, just knowing lots of individuals or resources that we've used in the past, whether it be here or outside the valley, is really beneficial to me. So I think that that is great. It is change, and so that is, I'm good with it. We're just moving very quickly after our coming back into the new semester and doing all of the schedule changes and getting kids on different paths and stuff. And so it's just, I was hoping to have everything boxed up, but I don't tonight. And so I'm sure it'll happen Monday. But it was kind of like a, just wanting to have a fresh start, starting next week. I've already met with the coach that helps me with the community school network, and it's going to go really well. I'm excited to see it really launch and
You have a lot of experience
Perform.
too, from prior when came into all of
Mhm.
that stuff, so.
Yeah.
I think you'll be a wonderful fit.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve internal transfer of Stephanie Corn to community school coordinator.
I will second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the internal transfer of Stephanie Korn to community school coordinator. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Next is to consider a stipend for the sped coordinator.
My recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is that Allison Barber is named the sped coordinator and receives a stipend for the additional duties and work that she's been performing. And I say been performing because this is something that she took on months ago with no increased compensation, and she frequently works both days of the weekend and Fridays, uncontracted days, I should say non-contracted days on these duties that were not part of her original hiring.
So, I have a question for you. Do we need to also approve naming her that position or just the stipend?
Technically, it's an add-on to an existing position, so we don't, because we're not creating a new position.
Perfect. I just wanted to know for how to word it. So is there any more questions or discussion? Sorry, I was jumping in. I motion that we approve the stipend for our sped coordinator.
Second.
Can we go back and name her
Name her,
name?
Allison
Yeah,
Barber.
Allison Barber.
Thank you.
Do we have to specify an amount? Or is that been determined?
You may, so the amount that Mr. Randy Dewey and I calculated we could afford and was commensurate, not completely, but would be $1,000 per month.
Okay, and
Do
this
you want me to
is
rephrase
on
that?
a 12 month?
Rescind your
I
motion.
rescind my
It would be
prior
19.
motion.
So it's just
So,
as needed kind of.
correct. So if we do not need that in the summertime, it would not be for the summertime.
So, I would like to make a motion that we approve a stipend of $1,000 on a monthly basis for Allison Barber, our sped coordinator.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve a $1,000 per month stipend for sped coordinator Allison Barber. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is executive session for superintendent evaluation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206, Section 1B, to consider evaluation of superintendent.
So we're gonna make any motions or if we rather than go after that.
There's,
I don't think no motion, making motions.
I'm sorry, did you second? And did we do? Okay, so Eric,
Yep. We got a motion and a second to enter executive session for Idaho Code 74-206, 1B for superintendent evaluation. Get a roll call vote.
Dave Cutter, aye. George Simpson, aye.
Eric, will you like?
Hannah Mitchell, aye.
Ken Donnelly, aye.
Chair, can you please turn off the recorder? Thank you.
I can get whatever you guys numbers.
Given your.
Have all the information.
I'm actually the first time I haven't been.
I can just pop in around.
I don't know that we did.